So yes, hi everyone, welcome. I already said my name 11 times, 'cause that's what I love to do. But yeah, I wanted to say if you're having... I just raised Acacia's elevation and vibration a little bit. Yeah, we're recording this for a podcast tonight. So if you're having trouble hearing us, since it's not amplified, feel free to scoot in and get cozy. A little breath.
Woo, that was impressive.
Wow. But yes, I'm so delighted to be here. So delighted to be hosting and facilitating this. I am a local visual artist. I'm an award-winning filmmaker. And I've been doing podcasting, hosting and producing off and on for the last 10 years. Most recently, a show called Zeitgeist that is all about metaphysical ideas and esoteric practices. And so couldn't be more thrilled to be hanging with this beautiful human who I had a lovely walk with yesterday.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for the beautiful, wow, that was beautiful. It brought me, really uplifted my heart. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, should I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, hi guys. I'm seeing you again, some of you for the second time, some of you for the first time, some of you feels like a lifetime.
Yes.
And so I just want to say thank you all for coming and deciding to spend a couple hours of time with me in this beautiful place that Jillian curated so thoughtfully and compassionately. And just want to say just thank you, Jillian, for holding space for this medicine practice, and just hopefully I cannot promise you all enlightenment. Sorry, let's just get that out of the way. But maybe something enlightening to think about, something new, something profound, or something that resonates for you. Maybe something that's a confirmation of sorts, or entirely dream weaving a new space, a new dimension of thought for you to consider. I am a visionary. I've finally become comfortable with calling myself that after so many people have told me this is what I am, and so I say, okay, I'm a visionary, I'm a lecturer, and a researcher. And I'm a lifelong student, most of all. I love to learn. And so I hope I can share some of what I've been learning about this walk with nature and with having a body and, trying to figure out what that's like, and you never really stop. But there are things that help you to deeply inquire with that. And that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon with Rainbow Warrior Road. We oftentimes hear about medicine work being called just the red road, and there is a red road. But there's a green road, there's a yellow road, there's a blue road, and there's a white road, and there's every color in between, and colors we haven't even thought of yet. And that's something that I want to bring light to. We're a whole body and a whole organism. And before I go any further, I want to ask Josh, do you have anything that you would like to share, or ask me before I get started?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So I'm gonna trust that this will end up being related, or it will just be a standalone kickoff question. Mm-hmm. So bear with me, this will thread together.
Okay.
I'm gonna describe to you a phenomenon that's been happening to me recently and see how it relates to us creating our own reality.
Okay.
So three events have happened. One is that when I first moved in to my current living situation, the first day I was there, I was working with a cutting tool on a piece of metal, and I got a shard of metal shaving in my left eye and had to go to the hospital for this. Then they got it out and it was no problem. Yesterday, my old pair of prescription glasses, the left side, broke while we were on our walk, actually. Then last night, I was at a house-sitting house, laying in bed, asleep at about 4 a.m., and this house-sitting house has 2 cats in it. One of the cats pounced on my face, and its little claws scratched just below my left eye. So, in my mind, I'm creating my own reality. The left side is the feminine side, and there's this repeated pattern of, there's something that Josh is kind of blind about as it relates to the feminine.
Wow. This is beautiful. Thank you for sharing this. I'm so sorry your eye got hurt. Ouch. But wow. At the same time, ouch, wow. All right. Yeah, Okay, well, I'm going to have to talk about something I didn't think I was going to talk about in this lecture. All right, so, I had some synchronicities around the left myself. Actually, I started doing a test to see if I could really tap deep into my intuitive feminine nature. You know what we always say? Turn to the left. Move left. So a lot of times I would take a route, there'd be a left turn instead of going straight, I'd go left and just see what would happen. See what I would see that was new or different. If I put 2 things on each hand, I would choose the one on the left. See what was new, what was different. And what I noticed is it was tapping into my deep, deep, unconscious intuition, that primordial feminine, that nature of the mind that is creating is feminine. And our ability to see, like those 3 shards, an obscuration in the left eye sometimes means we're obscuring our intuition, our natural intuition. And this plays into plant medicine as well. This plays heavily. One of the most important things we can do. And when I would weave into plant medicine, when I would pray with my left eye. When I look at you, you'll probably notice I look into your eye with my left eye. And I've done this. Anyone I look at. It's just natural now. Why do I do this? Why do I look into your right eye with my left eye? Why do I look into your left eye with my left eye? Because I'm not looking, I'm listening. I'm feeling you. I'm getting intimate a little bit with your spirit, with your intelligence. Saying thank you. I appreciate you. And then I'm letting that come in and come out in reciprocity through my activities, through the masculine action. I take the intuitive and then I take it into my heart, and that becomes my words. That becomes my activities. And in plant medicine work, I tell people this all the time. It doesn't take much to take mushrooms and put it in your hand and just look at it. And some people see me do like this a lot, yeah? I'm looking at you, my big old left eye. And that's because a couple of years ago, I had a breakthrough experience where I learned to speak to spirits. I learned to speak to the world around me through sight and through listening inside my heart, And I think that's something we're all a little afraid of, is what that means to have a first-hand relationship without anybody telling us anything. Can we really trust our feminine? Can we really trust her instincts, her intuition? Yes, we can. And regaining that power is a huge, huge part of medicine work. Any medicine path that you're on is learning to honor Mama Earth, Taita Inti, and Pachamama, and then also honoring our Shiva and Shakti, our inner green Terra, our inner white Terra, our inner Avalokitesvara, Guan Yin energy, whatever archetype, whatever god or goddess that you think of, there is always a feminine activity paired with it. Doesn't matter what gender you are. A lot of us in Western society have been taught that we need to be listening to an authority figure a lot of times for information. We watch the news to find out what's going on. We listen to people lecturing, even me, to find out about plant medicine. And that's okay. But you also have to tap in very deeply with this unborn, this primordial, this womb inside of your mind. And it's really difficult to do that when there are seeds that are coming from outside that are more questions, discursive conversations. You'll talk to yourself, but rarely do you go there to receive an answer to a question. Like a complete answer. And instead of the conversation being between you and your mind, or you and your masculine logical thinking self, this is going to be a conversation with the infinite, creative, intuitive self, the non-conceptual mind. And what's so special about this non-conceptual mind is that we don't have to think it out. We can feel it out. We can feel it in our hearts. The left side, the left thumb, is the meridian that connects you to the heart. When you hold and you receive medicine from a medicine woman, you take what? You put out your left hand. Why do you put your left hand? Because this is the hand that you receive. And when you give in, you give in your right hand in most traditions. You give with your right hand, you receive with your left hand. This is the feminine. And so how are you going to learn if your left channel is closed to receiving? Have to learn to open up that left. And sometimes it just pokes at you and pokes at you. My glass fell off. I need a new set of glasses. What is a new set of glasses? New set of glasses symbolizes a different world view. Inside of honoring the sacred feminine inside of all of us. And it's really even not the word female, but really the word tantra. Transformation. Transformation in the sense of visually taking lead and turning it into gold. Alchemy in the sense of when you look at something, no longer projecting with your logical mind onto it. This is what that is. This is how it's labeled. This is how it looks, and so that is how it is. But embracing the mystery. And that's what I think medicine work, no matter what culture or tradition, really is about, is an honoring and reverencing and appreciation of that mystery. And an exploration too.
Yes.
So yeah, I hope that.
That's wonderful. So helpful. I think that, yeah, I've probably defaulted to the masculine, thinky, solve problem aspect for a long time. And so in my heart, I know that the desire is there, the openness is there to balance the masculine and feminine, to be in touch with that creative intuition. And there is some resistance there, I guess, because part of it feels like there's a level of surrender that I'm not in control. There's part of it that feels like the love that's there might be so big it's terrifying.
Yeah. That's real.
And
that's really real.
Yeah. Is there, how would you recommend, obviously the plant work medicine, but
that was my partner who passed away. Terrifying. Yes. In the most loving and amazing, big, huge, overwhelming kind of way. So I had that around at my home, that kind of huge, awakened feminine energy, very quiet and very humble and singing songs, but extremely vast amount of love, yeah. And my best advice is you can run, but you can't hide.
Dang it.
It's going to find you.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
And so this kind of, we got the little scared, kind of like when we were kids on a playground, a girl starts chasing you, and you run, she gonna catch you. She gonna put sticks in your hair.
I still want that to happen.
But it's a playfulness. We have to play with her. We can't run and hide from our intuition. When we do that, we suffer. And we hurt other people around us when we're suffering. In fact, I think we hurt her the most. We hurt the compassionate being inside of us that really just wants us to know that it's okay to receive love from this entire world around us. And to be in bliss and in harmony with that love all the time. Doesn't make us irresponsible. Doesn't make us druggies. I mean, okay, I'm speaking for myself here. But it does not mean that we're completely bonkers. If one day, God forbid, we wake up happy and nourished for absolutely no abject reason but that we exist on planet Earth, and we realize the magnitude of that love, when in the realization we open up, it's like, whoa, that feels a little bit, okay, I'm good, I'm gonna walk away. That's what most people do. When they start feeling it growing, it's like, oh, okay, there it is. Okay. Masculine has left the chat. I'm gonna cry now. I'm not gonna look very masculine. But in that cry, in that release, in that samadhi, our questions are answered. And so we have to ask ourselves, are we prepared to be a little embarrassed? Just a little bit. And we think it's so hard, and we gotta think this thing out. Even our meditations become think tanks. Even our hot tubs become boardrooms for theories about the very thing we're currently experiencing. And it's okay for us to have that too. She's just gonna sit there and just be like, okay, I'm listening. And then when we tune in, she gets so happy and so overwhelmed with joy and bliss and compassion and caring for us that a part of us has to just say, you know what? Lay on top of me. I give up. I'm just going to let you do you for a second. Oh my God, she's doing her. What the fuck? Okay, this feels great. And then once you get over the then you can bring a little bit out of that and be like, okay, well, it's nice to meet you. That was a lot. You're me? Oh, really? Nobody ever told me that. That's a lot. Okay. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Whew. Now I know why they tell you to breathe. Okay. Because that's Shakti energy. That powerful Guan Yin, whatever you want to call it, whatever divine names you can think of right now. I just want you to just say them like quietly under your breath or loudly if you want to. Right now, just say it. What is that to you? Like, Chenrezig. For me. Thousand Arms. Avalet Kitsvara. And then boom, you get this flash like, oh, I just saw something. And you want to know, is that my imagination? And start the conversation thing. Was that my imagination? Did I make that up? Was that my imagination? Did I make that up? And then you stop. And you think of the name again. Chenrezig. Nope, I felt something. We have to stop running because that's part of maturing. In the maturing process, you learn to hold space. Your divine masculine starts to develop its own recognition and starts to be able to hold her in a mature and kind and gentle way without control, without saying, oh, you're going to give me this, or I want this. Manifestation 101 says, if I write this down, you're going to give me this. No, but to be loving and gentle and nurturing, and then allow that bliss. Like, you ever see the Buddha with his consort on top of him? This is the mind, the pure luminous mind with reality, in love, in consortship with reality. There's a relationship that you have with your world that becomes very toxic at times because of just what we think that is going on. And then we take mushrooms and we find out, oh no, I'm the only thing that's been going on. Everything's been fine. I've just been going on and on and on and on and on. But everything's just fine. And then you start to treat reality with less animosity, hopefully, little by little, with a little more gentleness, a little bit more curiosity, openness, and then she has a way to get through to you through these small little messages, through the sound of a bird, through a hummingbird's wings, through the flapping of a condor's wings, through nature, and through each other, through yourselves, through this beautiful world that we live in, the beautiful people that are in it. She'll start to speak to you through them because she's also a part of them. She's the Divine Mother, the most subtle particle in nature. It's also the basis of the mind. I think a lot of us, we exaggerate the mind a little bit. We say, we're mind plus ego. We're mind plus. And then we keep jumping. Woo! Yowza! I don't know what I am yet, but it feels good sometimes, and it doesn't feel good the other times. Woo! Woo! I fell off the trampoline. Oh no! Help me! And then when we're in the oh no, help me zone, we lose our belief because we forget that we're laying on a bed of roses. We forget that we're not alone in hell by ourselves. That there is a special place, there's a sacred place for you inside of yourself that you can tap into if you can just remember that it exists. And psychedelics do something really funny. They help you to meet yourself on that level and say, okay, you don't remember? That's fine. Well, I'm going to show it to you with 1,000 different metaphors and 1,000,000 different faces and 1,000,001 stories what you are. And then you say, man, that was quite a trip. Gee, I wish I could get back there without psychedelics. Maybe I need to go to a monastery. This is what Jerry Garcia said in 1995. He said psychedelics were so amazing, and for the small period of time where LSD was legal. I watched his interview because I wanted to know a little bit more about this guy. He's sitting here staring at me. Look at the pressure. Oh my God. But I have so much love for what he did, because a lot of what we're going to talk about he worked with. And so he said, for this little breach in time where LSD was legal, we could out in the public get as high as we wanted to, because no one had a context for what LSD was, what getting high was really. And so we could have these deep experiences. And then some people said, oh, I want to go to the next station and the next station, kept doing psychedelic after psychedelic. Others said, I got to work this thing out the long way. There's no shortcuts. I'm going to go live in a monastery. That's what I decided to do. I'm going to go live in a monastery and work this out the long and slow way. Because once you discover something that has infinite beauty, how do you reverence infinity? In a finite body, how do you reference infinity? You have to start to value your time and be more present. So we know it's not going to go away once we're dead. Or if we don't know that, we're pretty sure something freaky happens after death, at least. If not that, then aliens will abduct us and we'll ascend. But no matter what theory we have, one thing remains the same, that there's something mysterious about your intuition, and there's something mysterious about creation and our relationship in this world. And if you allow yourself to be a respectful student, she will teach you how things are. And that teacher is in you. And the plants simply help you to meet you. And that process help you decide what is most aligned for your journey and your path, because we all have different purposes. We all came here. Some of our missions overlap and some of them connect in really beautiful ways, like a web. But we're a constellation, each a shining star with its own coordinates. But we are all connected. And so if we let ourselves go deeper into that interconnected harmony, through practice, a little bit every day, you might sleep with your left eye open. But I guarantee you, the world will never look the same.
Thank you. I love this. This is my favorite kind of thing to talk about. As it pertains to the nervous system and human biology and our physiology, so there's like the spiritual path of having this desire to balance the masculine and feminine. What about in our bodies in this incarnation if we had a very unsafe example of feminine love or masculine love in a core relationship from a parent, so that I'm actually actively afraid of moving towards the feminine because the model I was shown was ruthless and abusive. So how do we foster moving towards that?
I can relate a bit to this, And that's when there has to be an overwhelming rush of opposite choice in life and action. Most people who are heavily abused are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Biggest smiles, kindest expression. Some not so much. Some just hate the world and say, screw it. We don't really want to participate. We don't care about you because no one cared about us. And to those people, I say, I'm so sorry that from the very beginning, the precious human life that you have is missing love. Love is something that when learned in an unhealthy way, I remember one time my mom called me and she said, unconditional love doesn't exist. Stop looking for it. You're never going to find it. She didn't know as I was in a relationship at the time, receiving what I felt to be unconditional love. And so we have to look at this divine mother figure, because a lot of us didn't have a human mother sometimes that had all the qualities, that checked off all the boxes or any of the boxes sometimes. And I think that the scariest part is to believe that a divine mother exists, is to believe that we are all children that are related. And we have to go further and further and further and further into our ancestry to find out that that is true. We are all relatives. We are all children of this planet. And this planet is our divine mother. And so we have to look in nature, in the way the earth takes care of her children, in the way the plants speak to our bodies, and through metaphor, find not such a human and imperfect mother to look up to, but to look at our universe and our cosmos and our solar system for providing us sunlight and just the right amount of oxygen for our bodies to breathe, and water that our bodies can drink, and foods that our bodies can eat, and thousands of plant medicines to cure our body from self-imposed illnesses, and resources to create shelter from rain and hail and storms. That is beautiful. But we really have to concentrate on the fact that, yes, our original mother, our primordial mother, does exist. We find her in the stones that are beautiful. We find her in the rain that falls. We find her in the butterflies. We find her in the ants. And even though nature can be very scary at times, there's always a balance. And there's always a flow. And I think that without seeing the dark sides of nature, we'll never understand the shadows inside of our own selves. We have to take into consideration the fact that there are laws of this universe. And we're inside a microcosm that's inside of a macrocosm of existence. And no, not everything is fair all the time. Not everything is pretty all the time. And so it gives us a gratitude for the beauty and a compassion for the pain that we see all around us. And that is part of healing. Connecting with nature is part of healing your injured dopaminergic system, your trauma response system to every time you think of women, you think of some screaming, manipulative, scary thing. The woman is not just a female. She is a creator. She creates life in her womb. And so if we look outside of the female, the earth was our first womb. Our earliest ancestors, 42 million years ago, looked like an amoeba with eyeballs on it. And we were grown inside of this earth from natural processes that were already occurring based on a larger pattern of natural processes that were occurring. And we're really stardust because we're made up of the elements that are naturally found in the earth, and these elements were drawn to each other. That's the original masculine and feminine, are the atoms coming together to form solid state matter, to form minerals, to form the compounds to make life possible on our planet. The original masculine and feminine is so tiny and so small that it is inextricably pure because we rely on it to have bodies that move around. They say that Shiva is the personality of the proton. Krishna is also Radha, in disguise as Radha. And all the gopis and gopas are all made of this elementary particle. If you've ever seen Vishnu lounging in universes that were all simultaneously created from this supreme being that exists on the infraparticle, there's artwork that describe these spaces that had to have been seen under the influence of most likely early psychedelics. When we take plant medicine, it helps us to read our DNA, read our bodies, read our microcosmic makeup so we can understand the world we live in better. We are like in a fractal. One part of the fractal, one pattern in the fractal tells you a lot about the algorithm that made the whole fractal geometry pattern. We are an echo of a bigger echo of a bigger echo, and the golden ratio shows us that. The golden ratio is found inside of the sunflower, inside of the singing bowl. The golden ratio is found everywhere in nature, and most importantly in yourselves. And the golden ratio, if you're not familiar with it, looks like this golden spiral geometry. And when we follow it and our bodies move in accordance with it, we find really novel ways to move. One of my favorite teachers, a grandmaster martial artist, he made something called the phi stick. And this phi stick was based on the phi ratio of the golden ratio of harmonic energy in mathematics. And we would do martial arts with it, and we would dance with it and move with it. And some of the energy that would flow through our bodies just felt so profound. You know, and a lot of the ancient dances in West Africa and all these different traditions are based on the golden ratio. The West African dances. They're also based on human existence, life, storytelling, but they tell of a natural law that was understood worldwide at a certain point in time. Where just like Jerry Garcia said, you could trip out in public and nobody would stop you or put you in prison for it. You could learn about the world as it really is, according to your intuitive compass and your relationship with these sacred plants. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm just taking this all in. I feel like I need to go sit for 3 hours and think about all this. Thank you so much. You had prepared a talk. I know we veered off for however long it's been.
It's all good. Yeah.
Would you like to launch into that?
Sure.
Into the Rainbow Road?
Sure. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I really hope that, some of this is easily digestible. Don't think about it too hard. Whatever sticks, sticks. Whatever leaves, leaves. Don't try to dial it back.
Thank you.
And so
Well said.
stay in flow. Yeah. So I want us to kind of just close our eyes collectively. And I want you to visualize your heart. Okay? Maybe even take your thumb and put it on a pulse point. And just listen to your heart. I want you to try to figure out what side of the body is your heart on. Left, right? I mean, some people have reversed hearts, but it's very rare.
My grandson.
Yeah, very rare. I've met a couple. And they sometimes seem a bit more feminine leaning, even.
Intuitive.
Yeah, very intuitive. And so, can you imagine if your masculine, right, and your left side of the brain was paying more attention to your intuitive, your heart, all the time? Can you imagine how much more you would care about your heart if you could physically, like, with your dominant hand, just cup your heart and feel it beat? Like, that's intense. Like, I gotta go all the way over here to feel that. All right, and I just want you to tap in with your heart mind. I want you to try to visualize that you are moving down your spine as if it's an elevator. And you're getting off on heart floor. And then I want you to gently and peacefully step inside and then walk from that level of the heart into the lower compartment on the left-hand side, where you might perceive a subtle bit of light. And I want you to just kind of sit in it as if it's your meditation cushion, okay? We're going to do this for a couple minutes. Elevator down to the heart. Get off on the heart floor and go down to the area in your heart a little deeper. There's a little bit of light swirling in a circular mandala pattern. And then sit there and press. You can use your breath to trigger that elevator feeling. Breathe in, go all the way down. Breathe out, relax. Okay, now go ahead and remove your thumb from your pulse point and open your eyes again. What you guys think about that interesting sensation? Guys feel anything a little different? All plant medicines require us to, at base level, acknowledge our sacred heart, what's keeping us alive. Your brain dies, you keep going. You have a heart attack, you die. Or you gotta go through a heart transplant, but the brain isn't so essential. We think it's the most essential thing, but it's really not the most essential thing. The Egyptians believed this too. You know, they'd scramble up those brains, put them into the canopic jar, pull them out any way they come out. But they would do something special with the heart. Yes, they prepare it in a very special way. Put in a very special jar, you know? And the reason why is because they thought that the brain was in the heart. Not in our heads, in our hearts. And now the latest research shows we have neurons in our hearts. Did you know that? We have receptor sites all over our hearts for a specific kind of entheogens that are even far more different than mushrooms. And what we really wanted to talk about today is that you are a whole body with a whole spectrum of energies. And this spectrum of energies is very much like a rainbow. If you even visualize a rainbow in your head right now, from red, yellow, green, blue, purple, in this way, you know, just kind of coming through your body, there are certain plant medicines that have an interesting signature. It's like a rainbow signature. And we see this a lot, but it's not with the conventional plant medicines all the time. Sometimes with psilocybin, you see rainbows. Sometimes. But it tends to be even more common with phenylethylamines. Does anyone know what that means? What's a phenylethylamine? PEA. And so phenylethylamine is a precursor to the love molecule, oxytocin. We know what that is. PEA is also in chocolate. And so you can feel feelings of euphoric love in your heart when you eat chocolate. Really good cacao. This is the whole idea of cacao ceremonies, is that when you take a cacao, it's not just the caffeine, it's not just the other alkaloids. There's something very intrinsic about cacao that lends itself to a feminine essence. But a lot of times we forget that feminine essence is also found inside of our hearts. And so the reason why it evokes these feelings on a chemical and hormonal level is because the medicine, the phenylethylamine, is binding to dopamine receptor sites that are physically on your heart, physically present. And so do peyote, Huachuma cactus, San Pedro cactus, and LSD. But do you know why LSD is so special? It's because it's a phenylethylamine containing information that binds to dopamine receptors and also a tryptamine, just like psilocybin, binding to learning and memory receptors, our serotonin system. Serotonin and dopamine are two novel neurotransmitters and hormones that our body produces. Serotonin is a learning and memory molecule. It breaks down to melatonin, which controls our sleep and wake cycle. And then we have a different class of molecules that are not tryptamines. Tryptamine means that has a molecule basis called tryptophan. Tryptophan binds to 5-H2A receptor sites. 5-H2A receptor sites are the reason why when psilocybin binds to those receptor sites, sometimes you have to go to the bathroom. Because serotonin is stored inside our guts. So it triggers your brain to think, wow, I must have eaten a big meal. I gotta go. That's why sometimes psilocybin sends you to the bathroom very quickly. Because it's stimulating a part of your brain that's normally stimulated after you've had a satisfying meal. A lot of the happiness that you get, a lot of the motivation that you get, the curiosity that you get. Ever eat a big meal and fall asleep, right? Well, you're falling asleep because you have so much serotonin that now some of the serotonin is becoming melatonin, saying it's time for you to go to bed. And so what's really beautiful is that since we are a human body with multiple areas where our central nervous system can feel things, the sad part is most people are just trying to stimulate the central nervous system with whatever painkillers, alcohol, tobacco that they can get, because they don't understand that it's going to give them a temporary high and a really terrible low. Why is this? Because the nature of addiction is so much more complex than researchers originally thought, that even today they're researching Iboga. What's interesting about Iboga is that Iboga was sold for hundreds of years in France, legally as an antidepressant and as an anti-addiction drug. And they made it illegal like in the 1930s, I believe. And it's really sad because now a lot of famous people who have serious addictions go to Africa and go to retreat centers in New York that are very fancy, that cost you $50,000 to go take an African plant medicine that's designed to get people off of hard drugs. But they're missing a big picture. What is the culture behind this? What are the traditions behind this? It's not just for worst case scenarios. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of different plants that can help with addiction. Why this one from Africa has tons of cousins in the same genus, same species subgroup, Tabernae montana, Tabernanth species. If you look this up later, if you see Tabernae, Tabernanth, Tabernae montana, these Tabernae montana species all contain indole alkaloids, including voacongamine. The voaconga plant contains voacongamine, ibogamine, ibogaine, and these are all really important alkaloids for treating addiction, but also for resetting the way that your body processes dopamine. You know how important that is? That's you getting to decide again why you are happy and what makes you happy and with whom. And that's really powerful, because then you can go back to the drawing board and say, you know what? I'm not happy with this behavior anymore. And then you have a choice not to get stressed every time this behavior comes up or presents itself, and avoiding the behavior because you don't want to trigger a stress response. How many of us have things that stress us out naturally that we avoid? Okay. A lot of people won't admit it. But the thing is that all humans can take in about 27,000 data points in a traumatic situation. And so you naturally avoid things that are related to those traumas because your body is like an animal. It kind of processes pain in this way of saying, this hurts, so I'm going to keep myself safe by not doing this thing anymore. It's like when you burn yourself on the stove. Get a little shoot of adrenaline. Your central nervous system is stimulated by the adrenaline, and then the cortisol comes in, and it depresses you a little bit. And it also either makes you feel fight or flight syndrome. And so you have stimulants and depressants happening at the same time in the human body. But we have plants that are ancestrally intelligent, from the mescaline cactus to the iboga, and it's a full spectrum. And so when we were talking about masculine and feminine energies, I wanted to bring up the difference between masculine and feminine plant teachers, because we call peyote grandfather peyote. Sometimes we call it grandmother peyote. But where does it get this grand from? Why is there an extra generation added to a personality of a plant medicine? Do you know? It's because of how you are held in the experience by the plant teacher. The feeling of direct communion with the heart and the kindness is something that we oftentimes only associate with our elders. When we take LSD, it's kind of just like boom, wham, zoom, pretty, beautiful colors, exciting, wow. And it leaves you at wow instead of at You need release and relief sometimes. And you get that when you feel at home. And you know what's stimulated when you go home and you see people that you love? Oxytocin. When you're around your family and people who care about you, oxytocin. And so when mescaline comes in or Iboga comes in, it directly activates the heart. The medicine binds directly to receptor sites in the heart of the human. And so the intelligence of the plant medicine is downloaded directly into the core of your being, and you feel beams of energy coming out from the heart, whether that's an MDMA, which is an unnatural phenylethylamine, also working on the dopaminergic system, ecstasy. You all hear about MDMA research trials for PTSD vets and all sorts of things, but we don't hear the fact that saffron, saffrol, sassafras, all contain MDA, which is one constituent off, and your liver converts it into MDMA anyway. Did you know that? If you guys want some MDMA, you can go buy some expensive saffron, put it in some tea, just a little pinch with some raisins and some cinnamon and some nutmeg and some star anise, and have a very warm, fuzzy healing experience. That is part of the spectrum of plant medicine. And there's a full spectrum of experiences that can be gained by stimulating the heart. Did you know that the heart can hold lactic acid? That there's literal calcium ions that sometimes get trapped, sodium ions that get trapped in the heart, cause the heart to literally harden as you age. Did you know that? And there are specific plant medicines that help to release those calcium ions so that your heart does not have arrhythmias and tachycardia. In Africa, there's a dart vine called Strophanthus. And Strophanthus is one of the plant medicines that's being used to cure right now serious levels of heart disease. I found this all after my partner died of heart disease. Start researching all the different plant medicines, and red, the color red, the bitter tasting alkaloids that are also red, like red salvia, red sage root, danshin in Chinese medicine, could have saved her life. Why? Because these bitter alkaloids are also containing glycosides. These glycosides are tonifying the cardiac muscle and helping to release lactic acid. So just like your muscles get tired and fatigued and tight, so does your heart when you go through a lot of trauma. And so you can keep your heart healthy by tonifying these muscles with that powerful red healing glycoside plant medicine. You know, and danshin is one I try not to run out of, because I like to keep myself, my heart health, my heart age younger than my physical age. I'm 29 years old, you know? And so I try to keep my heart age feeling like I was when I was 18 as I age. And guess what controls aging? What neurotransmitter did I just mention that controls aging? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone guess? Dopamine. Dopamine controls whether you look old or you look young.
Okay.
And so all of that cortisol, all of that stress that shows up on your face, shows up, you know, how much you've gone through over time shows up in your skin. And so as you start to rebuild your relationship with the intelligence of your heart, you start to realize that the psychedelics that have the most profound effect on you are the ones that control your relationship with your life purpose. And that's what a lot of these plant medicines do. And I wanted to shift over, before I go back into Iboga, into Huachuma, San Pedro cactus. San Pedro cactus was one of the best experiences I've ever had with plant medicine. No one ever asked me to talk about it because I rarely ever talk about it. It's the one where I had my first non-dual realization, where I realized that we were all connected and that our hearts were sending vibrations. I could see it, though. It wasn't like a thinking trip. It was a seeing and observing trip. And through seeing and feeling and observing and being grateful, I started to learn more about how this reality works from the inside out, literally. I realized that my heart was like a crystalline brain, and it would think thoughts through feelings. And a lot of us don't understand the intelligence inside of the heart has just as much experience as our brains, as our thinking thing. For as much as we think in our minds, we have neurons that are quantumly entangled with neurons that fire in our hearts simultaneously. So they're constantly talking to each other, our brains and our hearts. And so when you take something like Huachuma cactus and you are grateful, that feeling of gratitude is a releasing of oxytocin. That releasing of oxytocin is triggering a nostalgia. That nostalgia is triggering a deeper memory of birth, of existence, of creation inside of yourself. And once you start to identify that energy as yourself, not something separate or outside of yourself, you start to expand your awareness beyond the walls of your physical reality and into all of nature and all of creation, and start to become curious about the nature of things. And instead of trying to left brain figure it out, you start to feel it out. You start to communicate it out in a kind and loving way, because you genuinely care for the trees. You genuinely care for their well-being and their wisdom. And because you care for them, it opens up a stream of non-dual information, spiritual information. People want to call it light code, but intelligent energy that will come through your subtle channels and your feet. When you put your feet on the base of that tree, come through your body and into your heart first. And then later, your brain will pick up the conversation and translate it for you. It's a translating thing, our minds. It can interpret the language of the heart, but it cannot substitute for the language of the heart. The language of the heart is activated when we genuinely appreciate and are genuinely grateful for all things. That's when our deepest and most profound wisdom opens up. And then our eyes are open, because we're not only seeing what's happening, we're feeling what's happening. And because we're feeling what's happening, we're fully embodied in what's happening. Because we're embodied in what's happening, there's no need for the mind to try to integrate it into our worldview, because reality as it is becomes the truth. But because our feelings and our hearts change, the truth becomes a magnitude of love around us. And because of that, we feel content living inside of this world without questioning the nature of its existence logically, but writing down its wisdom and teaching the next generation how to be good stewards from our experiences. And our experiences are more valuable than our logic, because our experiences include understanding, and knowledge and understanding are not the same thing. And that's why I think it's very important for people to know about the spectrum of plant medicines. Has anyone heard of Shiva de Huantar? This is in Peru. The Shiva temples of Peru are so beautiful because they outline the story of Huachumeros all over the globe. I brought up a story and I wanted to read it to you about the Quechua, one of the Quechua creation stories. Do you mind if I read it to you?
Yes, please.
And so this is the story of Tarpak. Millions of years had passed and the world was in darkness, but a higher being came and transformed everything. Then came Hanan Pacha, the sun, the moon, the stars, the rainbow, the lightning, and so on. Ke Pacha formed waters, hills, snow, stones, and animals and plants. Uku Patsa, boiling water and worms. And in the end, Ke Patsa created man, but blind, who later disowned his creator, because despite being endowed with intelligence, he could not fully meet his needs and wants. Kakarampak, Kakaka, meaning gang. Rampak, meaning the one who leads, guides, or teaches, or the teaching gang, basically. A group of spiritual energies. was a demigod who had compassion for men and wanted to please them. He became a winged being, flew to Hanan Pacha, and took away the light and the fire. From that moment, humans were finally able to perceive the greatness of nature, use and thank the fire deity called Naina. Filled with the irony, the doer punished the daring of Kakarampak, sending him a son named Wachado, who became the evil genius, who fell in love with his own mother, Huaylash, and one day, wanting to know how she had been born, she opened her own mother's womb. From Hamnan Pacha, lightnings, thunder, and torrential rains came, flooding the earth, and Wataro was transformed into a bird that lived hidden in the cave of the hills, which he will only emerge during the nights. Since then, they say that in the dark it goes with its flights to infinite space, screaming, and their brethren became like combs, that they saw each other and are seen resting heavily upon the ground. Kakarampak lost the forces, and the penalty took over him. The doers, seeing him helpless, sent him in chains at a costly risk in the vicinity of Enpeña. Today, Enpeña, where he was tortured daily by a huge contour, that means a condor, that intended to devour him. In the current Ancash department lived the Runcos, giant men called Waris, who worshipped Wantar for his rigid physical texture and his uncommon strength with which he had tamed all of the felines, the different jaguars. This powerful character was Kakarampak's brother, and therefore he grieved the suffering that his brother was subjected to. They decided to free him from the ferocity of the contour, that in rapid flight from the east to west martyred and the chained. Wantar came out, determined to hunt him down, and he got it. As a trophy of victory, led the rascal to his people and the warriors to perpetrate what had happened. They sculpted his figure in stone. Wantar, to prevent another contour from leaving its lair with equal purpose to destroy, used the incredible strength of his outstretched arms to lift up two large parallel walls from south to north that form the White Ranges, full of majesty, toughness, and poetic evocation. Attributes the people since then, the condors crossing the Black Ranges lose their strength and will die in the warm sands of the coast. The Waris, to honor their god Huantar, erected a huge temple engraving their stories on the walls. This temple is in Chavin de Huantar, where it is worshipped. Kakarampak was the cause of worship in Nepeña. Its temple was located on the plateau of a hill. The ancients believed a place of enchantment that they say when they ascended to the mound, it rumbled as if they were walking on a huge drum. And in the full moon night seemed to see Kakarampak chained and with a grown and rough white beard down to the waist. Compilation of Augusto Albarrera, Footprints of History, 1988. And so this is a story of Kakarampak, and Kakarampak is said to be Huachuma, a Huachuma cactus. Okay? And when you take the Huachuma cactus, it gives you literal and spiritual condor's wings sometimes. Sometimes the wings of a little hummingbird, depending on what your activities are. But it turns the world around you, your actions and your activities, into metaphor of nature. And so there are different beings with serpent's hair and jaguar faces, with eagles or condor's claws and wings that are carved into stone at these giant megalithic temples in Chavin de Huantar, which is a temple, a megalithic temple built to honor the Huachuma priests of ancient times. And in their rites of passage, they would take the Huachuma into the dark labyrinth that was built for the initiates. And through faith, they would find the fire inside of the darkness, the fire of their souls, come to recognize its strength and its beauty and its nature as the doer, and then come out fully transformed into Chavin de Huantar, condor, serpent, rattlesnake priests. And they would have all these energies of the most fearsome natural predators, the jaguar, the serpent, the condor, and the eagle, all inside of one body. And we see the same type of thing in the First Nations tribes with the transformer statues and with totem poles, because the totem pole is the bear, the salmon that the bear eats, the whale, all at the same time. It's made of yellow cedar, and it's a transformer, meaning that the nature of divinity is captured inside of all the different forms that this energy and motion that we call divinity takes. And all of these natural forms contain the wisdom and intelligence of the cosmos. All these natural forms are inside of our DNA. All of these natural forms are here to teach us about wisdom and about healing and about community. And so they take the most powerful of those forms and they portrayed it as their God, but not as their God as we would think into worship, but as the being that they literally become or transform into under the influence of Huachuma. And this is sacred. And it's not something that's an intelligence that can be figured out in the mind. In the mind, it makes no sense. But in the heart, because of the appreciation, because of the gratitude, because of the connection and relationship to nature, it makes all the sense in the world. Because through embodiment of these beautiful qualities, the respect is maintained between the protectors, between the predator animals that would normally kill the humans. They receive protection from these animals through their reverence for their natural lives and for their natural habitat. And it's even said in the stories that the condor changed its behavior and changed its flight route, not to fly over the sacred white ridges, but to fly over the black ridges and to martyr itself because he killed a sacred human being life. And because the condor killed a sacred human being life, it was vowed to never do that again. And so the condor changed its flight pattern for the human. And the human built a temple to reverence its connection with nature. And this is the old way. This is animism. Animism sees life inside of all things. We do not have children in foreign countries thinking about their ego. We have children in countries thinking about, can I catch that snake? If I can just catch that snake, then I can have something that I can be my friend. It can be my friend. You ever see a child in Iran catching cobras out of the hill with his bare hands? They're docile. They milk them every day to keep them docile and as their pets. And so they wear them around the snake charmers that we see, in movies now. We don't understand that there's a relationship between humans and snakes in other countries that doesn't involve fear because of their respect for their way and their nature and their habitat. They know a snake needs to hunt and it's hungry. So they feed the hungry snake food and they keep the snakes kind of like a house pet. And use it to hunt when they need it to hunt. And when they do not need it to hunt, they use the serpent venom as medicine to heal cancer, to heal boils, to heal wounds, because that is what it is for. But because we have become so disconnected from nature, and because we are kept inside of a reality that benefits from our disconnection with nature. It benefits from our disconnection with nature because now we can use pharmaceuticals. Now we have cars. Now we have homes that protect us from all rain, etc. We don't necessarily respect the natural cycle. The mother has to water her children, all the plants and living things, and also nourish us. That's part of nature. And so living closer to nature is a really powerful thing when you work with plant medicine for the first time. You know why? If you go to Costa Rica and live for a month, you spend a lot of money. No, go to Mexico. Go to the place closest to you where you can get hundreds of miles from the nearest town and live in an adobe shack with no electricity, with mushrooms growing out of the rafters. So what I did, because I had to regain my innocence, my human intelligence again. I had to listen to the mountain and have her speak to me and give me permission to walk on her sacred soil. I had to listen and wait and be patient. I couldn't just book a trip to the mountain and walk up the mountain. No, every time I tried, the wind would come and push me down. Every time I go up, the rain would come and soak my only jacket, leave me cold for days. When I go up the mountain to pray, I am praying before I leave my house. To Mother Nature, Pachamama, Pachatayeta, teach me the natural ways. And in listening deeply, I hear softly, you have permission. It is safe. Come into my bosom. You have only a little time. I will show you my secrets. There's a pyramid up there on that same mountain I didn't know about. And me and my friends, we discovered this pyramid that had never been excavated. No archaeologist had ever dug for artifacts there. It was protected 3 hours from the nearest town. Walking through the middle of the forest in the dark was terrifying. But I needed to trust my instincts, my ancestral instincts, and my relationship. And as long as I listened deeply, I knew when to come and I knew when to go. And I never got wet and I never slipped and broke my neck. No animals ever ate me and I was never out past dark. I always had a way. And when I stayed out past dark, the spirits came and I respected them. I didn't run from them. I didn't hide from them. I didn't make up little mantras in my head to keep the thoughts out of fear. I connected with them and I said, how are you? No one's ever done that before. I remember just feeling this alienation from the tourists. People who come there, take mushrooms and leave. Come there, take mushrooms, leave. Come there, leave a mess, take mushrooms, leave. I remember one time I spent time deep in the forest where no tourists were allowed. And there was an ancient being, a wari, living in my backyard. And it was the first time I ever met a spirit whose body stretched for acres in my yard. And when it stood up, pure starlight came out of its eyes, but you could see its features as it came closer. It could, if it were to look like a painting, it would look like an ancient old man, a giant over my house, dwarfing my house, maybe 3 times as tall, 2 times as wide. His hands looking into my room, saying, "Child, can you hear me?" He's saying, "Yes. Yes, I can. Will you do something for me? Will you keep this place a sacred place? Do not bring anyone here who does not respect our values. This is my last home. I've been driven from the cities. The cars are too loud. This is my sacred sanctuary. You can stay here. You have a good heart." That was my first time meeting a wari. The Nahuals called them cloud people, but they migrated from place to place, finding natural areas where their spiritual teachings would enter in through the soil, into the mycelium, into the roots of sacred plants so that they could teach. Some elders came to me and said, "We felt your energy from 5 miles away. Your group, it's the only ones we want to talk to." And I said, "Who are you?" They said, "We've been coming here to take mushrooms since before you were thought about. We've been taking mushrooms here for 40 years. We appreciate what you're doing." And I was like, "Who are you?" My friend, he became like one of my best friends over time. I didn't know who he was at the time. It's a man named Alex. I'll never forget him. Him and his friends, they respected the old cuadernas, the old elders who took the mushrooms in San Jose del Pacifico. And he told me what had happened after it had happened. I told him nothing. He said, "Great spirits live here. The spirit of the giants, the spirit of the elders, their spirits used to come and teach us every night when we took mushrooms. And now, because the tourists have come, he's scared all of the quiet and humble spirits away. Now people come and they see colors and they think that's all that's supposed to happen, and then they leave. And they leave a mess. But you, I can tell, you know what's going on." And I said, "I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on." And he told me more stories about the beautiful woman who had just died. They came to honor her funeral. She was an elder who spent 60 plus years in San Jose del Pacifico as a healer, working with the mushroom. She was part of the reason why the sacred mushroom town was famous. This is the seat of where people go, children, mothers breastfeeding, they all eat the sacred mushroom. It's the economy. The economy of the town is to pick the sacred mushroom. Tionanacatl, the flesh of God, the flesh of Teotl, and to share it with their neighbors. This is how they've survived for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. We Westerners come with our ideas in our head about what we want and our healing so controlling of ourselves even, that we leave a stench behind, kind of energy that affects the town for days. And so the grandmothers get up at 5 a.m. with copoleros and run down the street with a copal, smudging the town, clearing the energy of Westerners who have come to just kind of take advantage. And you can see it's like a rainbow. You're at the top of the mountain. You can smell it wafting up so strong in the morning. Flowers just poof, throwing flowers down every street, singing medicine songs. It's 5 and 6 in the morning, barefoot, sometimes with sandals. The only pair of sandals they've ever owned. Women who have been making their livelihood off of selling tortillas for 30 years. To the same villagers in the next town over, walking 12 miles a day to do so. These women got up because they care about their home and about the plant medicine to keep the energy safe and beautiful for us. And I thought it was the most beautiful and heart-aching thing I've ever seen. During COVID, a lot of our elders died, and I stayed in the mountain during COVID. And they lined the elders up to get vaccines, but a lot of the elders died from the vaccines. And then after that, a lot of elders who had lung problems, their lung problems became worse. And so I stayed behind and I administered cobra medicine to some of the elders to keep them alive. And we cured a lot of people. And so whenever I go there, I'm kind of like family to a lot of folks because I stayed during a time where a lot of people died. And it was a lot of fear there because the medicine people, generations and generations of medicine people kind of went away. They went to other places. They went to Peru. They went to other countries even because of the colonization. And so I say all that to say there's a beautiful history behind these sacred places. And there's more than just the plants that you can't see. If you want to learn about yourselves, you have to learn about the spectrum of beauty inside of yourself and that connection inside of your heart. We focus too much on our psychology, on what our brains are or aren't doing. And the truth is that nobody ever says they feel healed when somebody pats their head, when somebody pats your chest or hugs your heart. That's something real. These medicines that can touch your heart, they prime your mind to receive spiritual intelligence. It's not that you want power. It's that you are power. You're powered by something in your chest. And so if you want to understand spirituality truly, you have to care. Have to care. That doesn't mean fake care, do everything for everyone just because it looks good, because it's pretty. Oh, fairy dust is so beautiful, it's so wonderful. Means dedicate the merit to all human beings on the planet. Dedicate the merit of what you do. One little thing, one little smile, even a bite of food you give into an animal. Even that counts. In vibration and a heart connection to every living being's heart on the planet. It's a small thing that we can do and it costs us nothing and it makes us feel better. Because when you are appreciative, oxytocin, the love hormone, is produced. And when you work with these sacred medicines, whether it's psilocybin or Iboga or mescaline, if you learn the stories, you learn a lot about yourself. You'll learn a lot about what you don't see from your perspective in the world based on your life experience. The stories give us a key to the past and to so many other dimensions of perception. Doors of perception, like Aldous Huxley. Mysteries. The true unknown. And I want to encourage you all that there is something new to be gained. You uncovering yourself is just as beautiful as any enlightenment. That is ultimately enlightenment, the enlightenment that is in your heart, the enlightenment that is in your spirit, the enlightenment that comes from benefiting all other beings is the only enlightenment that there is to be had. Okay? And so, yeah, that was, I'll leave it at that for now. That was my lecture, yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yes, that's a beautiful ending point. I just wanted to say I feel so privileged to be in your presence and to hear these words of wisdom. I was quietly weeping over here for part of your talk because my heart is just touched that not only I can heal the damage that I've done to my body, but I believe this information can heal the world. And these plants that are so abundantly available. So that really gives me hope for everything, to be frank. So what a gift to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would say I'm going to stop the recording, but if you wanted to talk about ways that people can support you in your travels and in your work, and then perhaps we could take some questions if anyone has them.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I really appreciate you. Thank you.